Welcome to Pulling Chain, the blockchain distributed ledger cryptocurrency news channel for the capital markets industry. I'm Steve Edge. Well, we'll start the show with AXONI. They're based in New York. They provide blockchain solutions to financial institutions. On October 18th, they announced a successful test using blockchain technology for equity swap processing. There were 7 other financial firms involved in the testing, of which the proof of concept conducted 133 scenarios for processing these securities. The results are compelling to say the least, and while we hope they can move forward with their project, the regulatory and legal hurdles will be daunting. We talked a bit about the legal pitfalls in our previous video if you want to take a look at it. AXONI has been running around all over New York, it seems. They previously announced testing with DTCC and Market on post-trade processing of CDSs, and last March they did some further post-trade work with ICAP. AXONI is positioning itself to be the go-to firm of Wall Street, and no, they didn't pay me to say that. Well, I'm not sure if you saw it, but the European Central Bank published an opinion that virtual currencies should be regulated to prevent the use of AML and terrorist financing. In the document, they say, the ECB has several concerns as regards the difference that exists between what the proposal refers to as fiat currencies and virtual currencies, one of which is the volatility associated with virtual currencies, which is typically higher than with currencies issued by central banks, as this volatility does not always appear to be related to economic or financial factors. What? No volatility in fiat currencies? Yeah, no price fixing either. Who are they trying to fool? The report continues, other concerns that unlike the holders of legally established currencies, the holders of virtual currency units typically have no guarantee that they will be able to exchange their units for goods and service or legal currency in the future. Well, looking at the global debt floating around these days, how sound are the fiat currency guarantees of payment anyway when most of these currencies are backed by nothing? And finally, the most crucial, I think, the reliance of economic actors on virtual currency units could in principle affect the central bank's control over the money supply. Aha! This is the key point. The central bank doesn't want to lose its control over the money supply. Give me control of a nation's money supply and I don't care who makes its laws. Well, let me just put it in perspective. Bitcoin's market cap is around $10 billion US, and the second coin, Ethereum, is around $1 billion US. Ethereum GDP is around 16 trillion, and public debt is 90% of that. What I think is that the ECB doesn't want its ability to print money out of thin air, lend out this fiat money, and receive real money back as interest threatened by digital currency, then using the provisions of terrorist financing to justify it. So if you see a digital coin out there called ISIS, you might want to think twice about owning it, though it is probably backed by the CIA. CoinDesk published an article that said blockchain could cut oil market costs by 30%. Marco Danan, CEO of Mercuria, was recently quoted at a conference saying blockchain technology was solid and the oil and gas market could see a digital transformation. Well, I don't think energy markets will be the only beneficiaries of distributed ledger technology, particularly when we see what AXONI has been up to these days. Well, let me ask you this. Who do you think are the biggest traders of Bitcoin in the world? The Americans? The Dutch? The Japanese? Well, if you said the Chinese, then you'd be right. Take a look at this pie chart. It shows OKCoin, Huobi, and BTC China clearly making up 97% of all Bitcoin trading. Can you believe that? Well, I couldn't either, but I found this great little site called bitcoinity.org that is chock full of trading data. OKCoin, the biggest exchange of Bitcoin, trading at nearly 72% of total turnover, does 1,100 trades per minute or almost 20 trades per second. I'd be curious to know the order to fill ratio. Well, certainly it's not HFT, but definitely algo-driven trading. The Chinese have invested heavily in mining and developing these markets. It is believed that they're the ones that have driven up the price of Bitcoin this year. They clearly have a stranglehold on the virtual currency. I read an article in the New York Times that because of the government restrictions on certain investments, that the move to Bitcoin was an easy one for the average Chinese. Now that they have such control over the Bitcoin market, they also control any changes with voting power. Now, how about that for a centrally planned economy? Well, on the subject of China, the government published a paper called the Blockchain Technology and Application Development White Paper. There's a link below, but the report is in Chinese. Well, I didn't read it. What I did read from other websites on the report is that the policy toward the technology is generally favorable and that its applications are broad. Finance stands out as a sector that will benefit particularly as a method to overcome the lack of trust and transparency that can be found in China. asset management, and the post-trader are seen as beneficiaries of distributed ledger technology. So I think the key takeaway would be that China will be looking at blockchain more closely to support its industries. Well, the last item I wanted to touch on was the SEC filing on the 18th of October by the Winklevoss brothers indicating that State Street will act as administrator to their cryptocurrency ETF. We did mention this ETF on our last show, and with the appointment of State Street, this product is one step closer to fruition. I'm sure Deutsche Börse is watching this one closely. So with that, I'll end our show. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave some comments below, or send me an email. You can find me on LinkedIn, and that LinkedIn is below as well. You can donate some Bitcoin or Ethereum to keep our channel alive, and the addresses are also below. Enjoy the rest of the day. For Pulling Chain, I'm Steve Edge.